Really cool to see SHONNER get into the discussion about this guide to sandboxing and hearing a lot of his points on what he thinks about heathen dogs, and as well John Max Lau from Legions of Myth, their insight together on some of their discussions. And I know SHONNER does things a little bit differently. He has the view that the sandbox is more of an improv with both the game master and the players. Now that's great, because, you know, as far as improv goes, I do that with my players with Numenera, mainly because I find it a lot easier if I have, like, with Numenera, you have the cards that I draw from, and I can, with those cards, bring up things that I've even thought of, but I can place into the game as it is running, and it makes a very interesting dynamic in the game and creating the story. And at the same time, I have to kind of, as the game master, and because of the way that Numenera, or the cipher system, and this is including the Strange as well, it's interesting that the way it's set up, that you have the game master having enough time to think about the links that you are going to create between the ideas that come up on the cards and how they're going to be linked together in order to make the whole thing make sense, because you're going to be coming up with cards with different values on them, but you're going to think, well, how does this link all together in this whole complex, if they're exploring a complex, or this village, how are these creatures coming up? And then you have to think about how the creatures are interacting with the players or the NPCs of the town, and come up with ideas of why they're there, and that's got to all come off at the top of your head. And you got to be consistent, otherwise it's just going to be a garbled mess. So that takes a little a lot of practice in order to pull that one off. To me, I would rather not be stressed by kind of committing my brain to a lot of memory work, and that's why I do not a player story, but the NPC story side of the adventure, where I create a plot with the NPCs on what they're planning and doing in order to make the entire story, which the players create, and you have to separate the two, because the players don't know what this plot is, that the NPCs are doing. I kind of give you an example with what we have here from our last. Please check out the part 1 and part 2. You see, I have the basics here of everything that the game master knows. Okay, so we're gonna also disregard this trail going right to the dungeon, because that was kind of my example of being a railroad here. So there won't be any example of that. So we're back to what the players know of this world, And we'll draw out the map once again as far as things go here in the what you have from what you have collected from my last videos here. So as the players come in, the players know that there is this village. They also know that there is a forest over here. And yes, as you know, as you've watched the other sessions, you know, or the parts, part 1 and part 2, what is all involved, but the players don't. These players are coming in new, fresh, have no idea what is going on here. They know that there is some hills over here, and they know that there is a mountain here and such. Okay, another rumor is that there is some sort of mage that lives out over this way, but you know, there's rumors about it. So that is it. So basically, we will put in the trees over here. So we got the forest over here. So we know that there's some sort of issue from the villagers. The players find out that the villagers are dealing with this situation here where there's some sort of humanoids causing problems. And they've heard about a clan of orcs over here. So we have orcs, and we have some sort of humanoids. Humanoid. Over here. So orcs and humanoids. And we'll go mage with a question mark, because that's kind of a rumor. Is this a good mage, evil mage, blah blah blah? Who knows? The rumors are abound. It's very cryptic. Some people say it's a good guy. Some people say it's a bad guy. Who knows? But this is the world as the players know it right away. You know, off the bat. So, rumors of some sort of giant flying thing off in this mountain here. Okay. The villagers don't know what it is, but they've seen it from a distance, that occasionally there's some giant beast that lives up there. So, that is what the players know. And as soon as they start going out and deciding, well, which hooks they're going to go ahead and take here, and this is going to be the player's story. Player's story. And this occurs on the fly during the game session itself, as the game is being played. So the players are going to be interacting with NPCs here. They're going to you know, have relations with different NPC characters in this town. You know, like the mayor of the town. They'll also, you know, meet the armorer and blah blah blah, and the smith, the guy that owns the provision store, that sort of stuff. So they will interact and start building a story. They might have a little bit of a feud going on with one of the people, and one of the like the provisioner, and they might want to, you know, mend fences with this guy in order to get better prices and stuff like that. So as you're going on the fly, this is stuff that I have not even come up with for story in the background, as you know from the first and second parts of this video. But it's stuff that I have to kind of improv along the way as well. But if I have a basic background of what the wants and needs of each of these individuals are, I'll have a better way of relating this information to the players in some sort of cryptic fashion, because they're not going to come outright and say, well, I need this, or they're going to end up finding out this information, secondhand, third-hand sources, that, you know, the Oliver, the provisioner, will probably give you better prices if you go ahead and deal with the situation over here with the humanoids, because he knows that this is causing a bit of issue with trade coming in and out of the town here. So if you deal with these humanoids over here, they might be more inclined to give you better pricing. Okay, you know, so then then the players have an idea of how they can get onto Oliver's, you know, better side. And this is gaming along for a couple of sessions here. So the players decide, well, they may decide on doing that, or they may decide to go ahead and check out what these orcs are up to, because everybody knows orcs are up to no good. They're always causing problems. They're killing, you know, the occasional farm folk, or grabbing individuals. And the reason, as the game master, you know, the orcs are doing certain things in order to appease the mage over here, as far as your game mastering plot goes. And the mage is employing these orcs to do certain things. So he'll have the orcs wandering off into the mountains, checking things out, doing some scouting and stuff like that. Because, you know, as a game master, this mage is out to try and find this hidden, and of course you see it over here, the rune, which is over here. But nobody knows about this. It's being portrayed in the background, in the shadows, while the players are doing what they're doing. So eventually, the players, if they're wandering around here, they may encounter a group of orcs scouting out these areas. So, say, for example, you know, the players get curious and go, okay, well, what are these orcs are all about? Do we attack them right away? Or do we let them go scout out and see what they're up to? And that's entirely up to the players to decide on whether or not that's part of their story. So they decide maybe they're going to scout, see what these orcs are scouting out. So the orcs go ahead and scout out this ruined tower over here. And that's where the players learn about this ruined tower from the scouting orcs. So then they may decide, oh, well, this is interesting. So let's go ahead and inquire about why these orcs are here. So they may go ahead and, you know, try to force the orcs to confess what they're doing with the ruins here. Are they working for somebody in the ruins? No, you know, well, it depends on how this all goes down. Because the players may decide, you know, to attack the orcs and take the surviving whoever remains alive from the orcs and interrogate them to see what the plans are. Or they might do this peacefully. It's entirely, you know, this is going to be part of the player's story, you know. I have as the game master, you know, I have no desire to go ahead and interfere with this player's story. That's not my job here. The player's story evolves as I'm bringing in elements from my game master plot. So, and that's part of the interesting interaction, which is going to cause, you know, this player's story to develop. So, as far as the players are concerned, you know, as them as people, they may be thinking, I've pulled this right out of my head, you know, this is pulling stuff out of my ass. But no, it's part of something that I've, of course, as you know, part 1 and part 2, that I've developed as my overall plot story. You know, and I use story once again very loosely because it is basically a plot. Mage wants to go ahead and uncover a mystery. So the mage may not be evil at this time, but maybe as soon as he sends people out to this rune and discovers, some ultimate power, his greed might creep up on him, and he may be becoming corrupted by this greed that is occurring inside of his character flaw. So perhaps the players find out that the mage has employed these orcs, and so maybe they want to go question the mage on what's going on here, or they might assume that the mage is evil. It could be. My plans, my background plot story, can be altered as the game progresses. Maybe I'll consider, maybe this mage isn't an evil guy at first. Maybe he put a spell or a geas on these orcs. Maybe that's how he's able to get these guys to do his bidding. So maybe that's what's going to happen. Okay, so the mage is actually a good guy, but he's going to become corrupted as soon as he gets this item over, this knowledge over here, and he's going to end up finding the location of the hidden dungeon, which is over here, but the players don't know that yet. Alrighty. So that is how this all accumulates together. Now, this is why part 3 is in here. I'm explaining how this is all going to roughly play out in a situation with the players not knowing what my background plot is. So that's how I run a sandbox. Some like SHONNER was saying. SHONNER says a sandbox is basically an improv, and like I say, I can only do that with certain game systems. Traveler, I can see myself do it, but I do a background plot as well in Traveler, because I want to be consistent and have a plan in my brain on how the NPCs are going to be doing things. Because if you just have your NPCs just standing there, as in an MMO, and always waiting for the players to show up, and they will always be there at the store or at the wherever, it doesn't feel real. You gotta have these NPCs moving around. There'll be days that Oliver, the provisioner, won't be at the village. He might be off renegotiating some supply deals with the next town. And maybe he'll hire the players to, when he discovers players are actually helping him out with these humanoids, he might be inclined, hey, since you guys are useful at these, getting rid of these humanoids over here, how about I hire you to take my son or daughter, depending, to the next village to negotiate some deals, and then escort them back. That might be an entirely different, a new thing that I have not even considered as a plot point, but it's something that can be brought up. And because I know how Oliver is going to work effectively with the players in certain situations, because I know his character traits ahead of time, I can work with that. So the players decide to, in the next session, that they're going to go with Oliver's son or daughter and go off, and depending on what happens on there, maybe they get captured and kidnapped by some goblins or something. I pull this right out of my head. It wasn't even planned on part 1 and part 2 of this whole scheme in the background. It just brings in more stuff to do with the players. And then I can go ahead and develop maybe a little sub story off of this with the NPCs, and work it into this whole scheme on the known world, the sandbox. So player's story can go off into different tangents that not even I even thought about. And you know, like I say, it's because my mouth opening up and saying, oh, that there's another village over here. Well, now that's going to get plotted onto the map, and it's going to be part of the known world for these players, and it's going to be part of the synergy of what's going on in this entire plot going on in the background. So, and maybe I will add something about that village. Maybe I'll add a bad guy to that village, who ends up sending spies over there, seeing what's going on as well. You know, maybe they'll travel back with the caravan as part of the, as part of the innocent, group of NPCs deciding to group up together with the players going back with the caravan with all the new goods and everything, and they will be part of this plot that maybe involves the ruler of this town. They're planning on say some sort of exploitation of this ruler here in order to consolidate power, because this ruler of this town is sending out say some people to mine this section over here, and this is me coming up with something entirely off the cuff. So now we have the mayor of this village sending out miners to go ahead and create mines and start, bringing in an influx of gold and silver that they discovered off over here. Or maybe it's just iron. So, and, this, the mayor of the new town is wanting to get in on this action, so they're going to go ahead and try to do some subversive kind of workings here, trying to get in on the coin that's about to be created by this new endeavor. So this can also work in. Now we got like all these extra little tangents going off, and it doesn't have anything really relating to the mage here and his plot to get some information here, which will bring up this hidden dungeon off in the distance here. But something could happen with maybe some more orcs wandering through here, and then there's a slaughter that occurs with these people at the mine. And this is all coming out of my head. Like, this is totally improv. This isn't, and this is occurring. This is where my improv comes in. Sure, I have all this stuff going on in the background, but there's all these spur of the moment ideas that I'm bringing in, slowly, and now maybe I want to go ahead and create some interesting things in the mines too. Maybe the miners broke into a little area which is a cave, and it unleashes something weird. Maybe it's an ancient graveyard that's been covered over, and that's where they broke it into. Now they've released some sort of ancient undead evil, and something happens. Maybe this undead evil will end up influencing the mage to become evil as well. Maybe it's some sort of a ghost or a spirit or something, which escapes. And then the players go ahead and uncover this, and they say, oh, well, where did this spirit go? And it's where the mage turns evil and decides, the ruins, and we're going to uncover that location, and we're going to become all-powerful evil mage now, possessed by evil spirit. Hey, totally out of my head, and part of the improv. So, and this is all because I've already prepared a lot of ideas in the background on how this is going to go, so it works. That's how I end up having a game session, over and over, and creating new subplots and stuff, which is all player driven because the players decided to go this way and visit the other village. So I had to think of some extra ideas in there. right off the cuff. So this gets into, yeah, so what I'm saying is there's a non-player story, which is a plot going on in the background. The players create their own story through the actions of their game, which increases my improv on what's happening in the background. And yeah, that's how I roll. If I'm, like Heathen Dog says, he basically forces the player to do a path. I believe that's totally a wrong way of doing that. That's not my way of doing that. I've tried that in the past as a dungeon master, and all I'm doing is I'm losing players. Players are going to become disgruntled. They're going to lose interest. They're going to feel forced into it, even though you're trying to, you know, hide that fact. They're going to know, and then eventually they're going to quit, and then you end up basically with a game world that you've been sandboxing away here. And well, not sandboxing in Heathen Dog's case, you're going to end up with a world here which is not going to be ran through because your players are going to dive out of it within session 3 or 4. Vetting players. So here's the thing, my current group that I have going right now, it's a group of players. And right now we're just playing Numenera. It's only 2 players right now playing Numenera with me as the game master. Before that, we've had 3 other players as well. And so vetting, players are not going to be equal. Players are never on that same level of role playing. Some will role play properly, some won't. I'm not going to go ahead and you know, throw somebody out because they are not role playing properly. They learn how to, like I said, the new people that I had coming into the group had only known how to play 5e. So they were used to this idea of insight rolls and stuff like that. They had no idea about asking questions and learning, you know, different avenues by asking questions. They were running games where you roll for everything. Once they got through my first session of realizing, oh, you don't roll for this stuff, you ask questions, they instantly started, you know, catching on, and they started using that. So by the second session, they were like acclimated to what was going on. We were playing Castles and Crusades, which is basically second edition, with more reliance on the attributes as being part of your skills, and you know, you can bring in skills if you wanted to. I really don't utilize skills like that. If you have the knowledge, say if you're a ranger and you decide, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and look for tracks around here, and you're looking for tracks, you're gonna find tracks. And depending on how old they are, if they're older tracks and you're like trying to find old tracks, then it might become a roll on the die. But if I need that to be part of the way that the players are going to discover whose tracks they are, if I'm relying on a roll and they don't make that roll and they're like, well, we don't know whose tracks these are, and we don't know which way they're going, well, then that blows your entire way of getting the players to know who made those tracks, where perhaps your plot is hinging on them to actually know who the track owners are. So if I if I make it a roll and they fail the roll, well, then there goes my avenue there for them to carry on through a plot point. If I let them have, yeah, they find their tracks and they follow them, and then eventually they lead to the instigators that own that tracks, that made the tracks, then, we can continue on with a plot line, right? So keep that in mind. Sometimes, secret entrances, lead to better things. As long as the players are saying, I'm looking for secret entrances, I will most likely let them see that there is a secret entrance. If I make them do a roll, it's going to be basically, yeah, you see the secret entrance, but if you fail, there's going to be a trap there. And then they trigger the trap. If they if they make the roll, then yeah, they discover that there's a secret entrance, there's a trap, but they know that the trap is there, and they discombobulate it. Adds for a little bit of tension in the game, and you gotta have that, but if your game hinges on them finding that secret door which leads to all these rooms and stuff like that, and the players are apt to look for secret rooms in that area, and they find and I'll give it to them. I'll say, yeah, you find the secret room. Like I say, if I make them roll, it's going to be basically, do they find the trap and everything else on there as well. So if they fail their roll, yeah, they find the secret entrance and the trap goes off. So that's how I would game master that kind of stuff. And you gotta homebrew a lot of stuff. So homebrewing is a big thing with me. As long as I'm consistent throughout the entire, the story that these players make, as this is occurring, I keep I keep consistent, and that's important to me, to be consistent with the rulings and make it all make sense to the players, so that they can keep on going and expect similar results further on, and it helps the players to understand their role as role players. So yeah, vetting. Well, these new players that I have, they're doing great now. And if I had vetted them in the beginning, saying, nope, you are not going to play in this game because you rely on insight rolls, well, then I wouldn't have players. Simple. Within a couple of sessions, they've learnt how to play, how to use, their words instead of a roll of the die. And that's awesome. Now I have players that will play in other games and stuff. They're learning other game systems as well. So, and they're having, they're learning stuff as I'm learning stuff too in some of these systems as well. So it's all cool. I get to try new things as a game master, and they get to try new things as players. So it's a win-win, and the players become better players. Because if I'm vetting people and they had the potential, but I didn't give them the chance, then it's another person that's going to go on thinking that, role playing is rolling a dice and getting insight rolls. So I have totally changed this person's view on how games are played just by letting them in, not by vetting them out of the game. So something SHONNER might want to think about, because young kids, they'll learn new things. You don't dismiss them because they have been taught wrong. Just get them into the game and show them how it goes. That's all you can do. And they either catch on or they don't. And if they don't, well, then that's what happens? They're not being malleable. They're not being malleable players. They only understand one thing, but not everybody's gonna. That's kind of a rare thing. I know, as experience as a salesman, I can teach people how to sell stuff, and I just have to figure out their strengths and weaknesses, and then I can teach them how to approach customers and work with customers. And everybody has their own way of doing it. So some are more successful than others, but that's just the way it is. They have skills in other things, as well, which work in the work environment. So, and they stay on with the work environment, even though they're not as great of a salesperson as this other person. They can still stick around and learn. They can learn the skills from those who have succeeded, as well as myself. So I never discount anybody. If I fail in teaching somebody how to become a salesperson, then I've failed. I failed in all that time and effort put into the person. So I have to keep up with it. It's part of my responsibility. And as a game master, I kind of view that as the same thing here. So hopefully this teaches you some new skills. And you'll be able to take this whole idea of all three parts. Remember, watch all three parts. And you'll understand how I sandbox something. So, and keep in mind, I'm saying sandbox as in taking either your own idea here, like I've just created here. This is nobody's world. This is my own world. Okay. Sandbox. Another sandbox is like Greyhawk. I consider Greyhawk a sandbox. Okay. And everybody's sandboxes can be tweaked totally differently. So no two game masters play Greyhawk exactly the same. Same with Forgotten Realms. Forgotten Realms is another sandbox. And I've seen Forgotten Realms change drastically over the years from where it first showed up. I think it was original Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition or something. Somewhere in between there, it ended up showing up. And everybody used... everybody's version of Forgotten Realms was totally different. So was taken in part by totally different places. Sometimes they would change things up a lot. Some will take, even Red Wizards of Thay. They might include them in their game. They might not have them in the game. They might not have any position in the area that they're portraying their game in. It is entirely up to them in Sandbox. A sandbox is just basically, for me, a world that I've developed or that I've taken, Techable or something like that, and made it my own. I might have monsters in there that don't exist, or stuff, cities and towns in there that don't exist in the original material, in their original basic sandbox idea. I'll add my own stuff. I'll add my own counties. I'll add my own rumors and stuff like that. I'll totally modify stuff, and every game master should do the same. Don't take Forgotten Realms and run it as it is right out of the book, because you don't have enough material in there anyways to do that, unless you're doing an entire improv, and then you're gonna end up running into some possible problems, because you got to be a really good game master in order to have a really good memory and be right on ball if you're gonna improv everything right off the bat without any kind of a back plot that you've kind of hinged your game upon. So yeah, that's my insight on this whole thing. You can take it or leave it. It's all good. You can have your own comments at the bottom on whether or not you learned anything. And like I say, if you have any comments or questions, leave them below on the comment section. I will answer them as well. And thanks for watching this 3-part series, and hopefully it helps you out in your game of sandboxing. Alright, take care. Thanks. And subscribe.